Hello everyone, and welcome to another quick tutorial. So what we're going to do today in Davinci Resolve is we're going to try to replicate this effect. This is from another Reddit request. I've already done it. We're going to end up with something like this. But I figured I'd do a quick tutorial about it. So this is what we're trying to replicate. We're not going to replicate the changing backgrounds and stuff. I'm focusing on the text in the background and the effect that is being done to it. So we're going to try that first. So, you know, we could quickly replace the characters and replace the background. That's fairly easy, but I'm focusing just on the text. And I might actually do it a little bit nicer than I did in my first try. All right, so let's get right into it. First things first, we are going to... I'm not going to put it on this. The reason I'm bringing this in is I'm going to need this as a reference. So I'm going to turn this clip into a Fusion composition by right-clicking and open Fusion page. But I'm actually not going to use this video input. Let me hide that. There you go. I just need it as reference. So I'm just going to keep it off to the side here so that I can then bring it into my viewer and compare and get the timing right and all that. I'm going to grab a background. I'm recording, yes? Yes, excellent. I'm going to grab a background, slap that into my media out, and then I'm going to reduce the alpha. The reason I did this is it's going to then set the size of my composition, because I'm going to put everything on top of that, so the base composition is going to be the size of my background, which is, for some other crazy reason, 3840 by 1776. My computer is going to hate me. Especially since I'm also recording on OBS. I need to set up a second computer to do recordings when I do stuff in Davinci using a capture card. Alright, so that's our first thing. Next thing is we need some text. So I'm going to grab a text plus node, and I'm just going to slap that on here. And I'm going to write evil star. Did I not even spell my name correctly? There you go. Alright, find a nice font. Let's find a nice font to go with it. Yeah, that's a good one. There you go. Size it up to fill most of the frame. I'm not actually matching the look of this yet. I'm just getting things prepped because I'll want to start from here, really. All right. So we've got our text. Now the problem is this text is solid, while this has an outline and a bit of a faded transparency, right? So we're going to go into shading, and we are going to reduce the... On the first one, we've got white solid fill. We're just going to reduce the opacity of that. That looks about right. And then if I go over here to red outline, I'm going to enable that, and I'm going to change the red to a white. Oh, that is a terrible, terrible font. It's got all these weird... It's composed of different blocks. Ew. No, let's change that font. That is terrible. It looks great when it's solid, though. Yeah. Oh, that's the one I used originally. Let's try something else. I kind of like these. Yeah, let's go with this one. Okay. Alright, so now we've got that similar. We're going to go back to shading, just reduce the thickness of the line a bit so that it's a bit more like the original. Right? A little bit more. Let's go back to opacity and lower it down a bit. There we go. So we're already kind of far in there. I'm going to go back to my font, and we've got bold. Let's go for extra bold. We want those letters to be thick. All right, that's good. So we've got that. What's next step? Well, let's just bring in a background. So in my media pool, I generated this image. Oops, let's bring it in. I generated this image ages ago while testing out some AI, and then I brought it back into Krita, and using Stable Diffusion for Krita, I removed the character. Oops. To give me a clean plate. It's not perfect, but for our use, it's going to be perfectly fine. And you'll see in a few minutes why we did it that way. So I'm just going to put a backdrop and then just scale it up. We're going to move this around and replace it later. It's just to have something so that I can see how the text is going to interact with the colors of the background. But this is actually going to get moved into a 3D node later on. So we're just going to add a transform. Slap that in there. Go on. There you go. And we're going to resize it so it fits the screen. Perfect. All right. And we don't need this one. This is for later. Okay. So we've got a text and it's going onto on top of the background. I'm just going to grab my media 1 back here and take a look and see what we've got. We've got a character in front. We don't care. I'm just going to start going up frame by frame. You know what? I'm going to go back to my text and I'm just going to make it extra bold and italic. Is that an option? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's much better. Okay. What were we doing? Okay, so we're going to take a look. We're going to go frame by frame to see what happens with the background. So we're moving in a bit. We don't care about that yet because that's going to be handled in 3D later. But right about here, this is where it starts getting interesting. We've got this color kind of creeping in, filling in the background. And then it gets overlaid by another color and overlaid by another color. Now, I'm not going to do this exactly the same because you'll notice over here it's pink and over here it's red. Over here it's blue. Oh, wait a minute. That's light blue. That's interesting. I don't think I'm going to match it exactly. It's going to be like, you know, pink over here and pink over there as well. There's ways we could handle this based on like the background that we're bringing in. But, yeah, I think we're just going to keep it a bit simpler. So the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to be able to set up what's going to fill in that text. So I'm just going to move this. I'm just going to move this down a little bit out of the way so I've got some room to work here. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in a background. I'm going to bring in a background and we're going to make it... So the first color that comes in is a pink. All right. So I'm actually going to cheat a bit. I'm going to grab this and make that background that color. F2 to rename it. I'm going to call it BK for background and pink. Nice. All right. We're going to make another background. And we're just going to go forward. I'm just trying to see what colors we need. So we need a blue. Good, good, good. We're going to grab that. Just grab that color. F2, background blue, and this will make our lives a whole lot easier later on. Sorry for the clicky clack. I made, well, not a wrong decision, but I bought a nice mechanical keyboard and it is very loud on camera or on microphone. I'm gonna go forward a bit. Eventually we get like a white. So we're going to grab another background, and we're just going to go with like, it's not a perfect white, like that. Boom. Do BK white. Is there another one? Yeah, and then we get like a yellow coming in. Perfect. So we're going to grab this, and we're going to grab, like, let's say this. Background yellow. Perfect. So we've got these colors, and this is what's going to fill this in. Next thing we're going to need to do is, you'll notice that it fills in from the sides, and it's got a bit of a curve. Right? It's got a bit of a curve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a ellipse mask. And you're like, oh, you're going to draw a mask for each one. No, no, no. The power of nodes is that they are reusable. So I'm going to use the same mask on all of them. What? Yeah, like that. Now, what I can do is I'm just going to bring this in. I'm going to make sure that this is going to fill in most of the frame. And I'm going to do that with width. No. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so if I go back up to here, this is where it's going to be. Now you're probably thinking, well, yeah, but it needs to be animated, right? But I'm not going to animate the mask. I'm going to animate the entire stack of layers. I'll show you that in a second. So now that should cover up the entire thing. So if I bring this in, for example, and I do it like this, you see, it brings it up. The problem is that I'd have to do like this and then animate all that. That's a problem. But as of, I think it's Davinci Resolve 18.5 maybe? I don't remember when it came in. They added a new type of merge node called a, where is it? Multi-merge. Multi-merges are awesome. There's a problem with the multi-merge. It expects a background and then it adds things on top. Here, I'm going to show you. I'm going to put this in. It put the pink as the background and it doesn't show up as a layer. So I'm just going to grab my background over here. This is horrible, by the way. You shouldn't do this. Because you're crossing over. Like, technically I should really just grab another background. Like this. Yeah, let's do it like this then. We're going to bring this in, and this is just to set the size of the multi-merge, I guess? Maybe? Okay, so let's take out the media pool. To give us ourselves some room. I didn't even notice it was still on. And so, the first layer, the background layer, doesn't show up as a layer, and that's a problem for us. So what we're going to do is we add a blank background into it, and then we can start adding our other things, and they'll show up like layers. What? Layers in Davinci Resolve? And the reason we want to name them correctly here is so that we know what the heck we're dealing with when we're here, and if we rename them after linking them, they don't get renamed here, which is a huge hassle. So yeah, that's how we do it. Now the cool thing is that then we can affect each individual layer. It has its own set of settings. So size. And if I bring this in here just to show you, I am going to just leave the pink in just to show. So I'm going to go back to pink, right? Pink. And look at that. Oh, I might need to make it a little bit taller. So it's going to cause us some issues as we bring it in, but I think it'll be fast enough that we won't even notice. As we bring it in, it does something similar to what we had earlier. And I think maybe that's why it jumps. If we take a look over here, when it starts, you'll notice that it jumps from nothing to there. So I think that might be to deal with that problem, which is kind of interesting. Okay, let's go back to it. Alright, so right here we're at nothing, so I'm going to bring this down all the way down to nothing. I'm going to set a keyframe on size, and then I'm going to go up 1, and I'm going to increase my size until it kind of does the same thing, something like that. That looks good. And then we're going to go 1 more frame, 2, 3, 4. So 4 frames in, it goes all the way. So 4 frames in, it goes all the way like that. Perfect. And now we're going to do the same thing for this one, which is the blue. So if I go back, the blue starts here. So I'm going to then go to my blue layer, go back 1 frame, set it to 0, set the keyframe, go 1, increase its size so that it's kind of like this-ish, right? Yeah, that looks good. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to then go back to just a little bit less, because we see a little bleed over here. And then we're going to go with our white layer. We're going to go back. Right there. So go back 1 frame. And to go forward and back frames, I'm just using the right and left arrows on my keyboard. So right here, I'm going to bring this down to 0, set the keyframe, 1. We're going to increase the size to kind of match up a bit. That seems good. And then 1, 2, 3. So that one at 3 frames, it's the full size all the way out. I'm just going to increase it a tiny little bit. Perfect. Now we're going to go for the yellow. When does the yellow start? Right there. And it's kind of weird because it starts over here and it's got a gap there, but I'm just going to do it like the other ones. So we're going to go back 1 frame. We're going to choose yellow, set the keyframe, reduce it, bring it up 1, and you know what? We're actually going to change the position. We're going to set it over here to kind of do the same thing it's doing there. So it goes pretty fast up to here. And then it slows down. Until it's full. Like that. Perfect. But now you're like, well, yeah, but it looks like garbage. Like, look at this. It's all covered in yellow. Well, the next part we're going to do is we're actually going to use this as a mask. We're going to use the text as a mask. So if I grab this, this should work. No, it does not. Or does it? Let's see. No, it does not. Well, it sort of does, but because... So the problem that we're having is you can see it's actually kind of working, right? The problem that we're having is this is the mask. This is what the alpha channel looks like. Anything in black is removed. Anything in white is included. The problem is the center part here is not white. It is actually gray, which means it's only partially transparent. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this. And we're going to paste it. No, we're going to copy it. And we are going to paste an instance. Now what that does is it creates a linked copy. And everything that I change here will change there. But I can disassociate things. So everything in green will match. So if I come over here and I say, instead of Evil Daystar, I say Shabubu 12. Or Shabubu, here you go, right? That text is changed, but also this one, which is great. So if I decide to change the text, I can. So let's go back here. There you go. But I can then come here, go to my shading, and go to my... go to my shading, and disconnect the opacity, and then just crank that all the way up, and now it's pure white. Now if I use this one as the mask, Look at that. That works. So now, if we take a look at this merge, it worked. It worked perfectly. Like that. Boom, 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 boom. And then it expands. Like that. And that should match. Let's grab this. Let's turn off the alpha view and go to this. And now that should match the timing. Now it's got a couple more things afterwards, and our yellow is not quite as yellow because the problem that we have is that we've got like a white overlay, which is causing it to be a bit faded. So I'm going to actually grab this and I'm going to add a color corrector node. Okay, get away. Color corrector node. And I'm just going to pump up the saturation to compensate for the white that's being overlaid on top of it. We'll deal with that flickering and stuff afterwards. Now, I don't like the edges. They're very harsh, but the nice thing is, because I did an ellipse on all of them, I can just come with to this ellipse and soften the edge, and it'll soften the edge of every circle. So if we take a look, I know it's a bit harsher, but I want it to be a bit softer. There you go. Maybe that's a bit much. There you go. Okay. And the same thing, if I needed to change the shape of the ellipse a bit, it would change it on all of them. I wouldn't have to change it like 4 times. All right. So we've got our text, and it's being overlaid. Now we've got some flickering further down. As we go here, you'll see it goes from yellow. It also changes the outline. Maybe we'll deal with that after. Okay, so it changes from yellow back to gray right here. So what I'm going to do is we'll deal with that right now. We're going to see where it happens the first time. Get to here. It goes all the way to yellow. There's kind of a gradient effect, like it's darker over here. We might deal with that later. I'm just looking to see right here. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to come to this merge. Maybe? Yeah. So we're going to come to this merge. And if we go and change the blend mode. So I'm going to set the blend mode like this. And then if I change the blend mode down, it's back to normal. 2, 3, 4. I'm going to set another keyframe and then one more keyframe. Bring that up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's a bit of a shimmering effect on it. We'll deal with that maybe. Oh, okay, we're going to go back right here. So we're going to set a keyframe, blend, keyframe, blend. So right now I'm just dealing with the flickering. Oh. Keyframe, next frame, blend. Just do that throughout the whole thing. Oh, and here we get something a bit different. It goes kind of like a solid gray-green type thing. So how I'm going to deal with this I could insert something else in between, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to grab our yellow here, and I'm going to keyframe its color. So at this frame, it's going to be yellow. At this frame, it's going to be this dark greenish color. Let's make it look a little bit darker. Yeah, like that. Right? No, that's not how we're going to do it. No, that's not how we're going to do it. We're going to add another color. So we're going to come over here, we're going to do this. We're going to add that. And this one we don't need to clamp to the ellipse because it does the whole letters and it's being masked by the letters anyways. It doesn't need to grow or anything like that. We still have the white outline, but we'll deal with that afterwards. Okay, so this, actually, black looks, because of the, yeah, that looks perfectly fine. Great. So what we're going to do is we're going to come here and let's, oh, I can refresh it? Nice. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to say F2, I'm going to go say black, background black. And if I come here, it's not got the right name, but if I do that, okay, that didn't work. So disconnect it, reconnect it. All right. No, I've disconnected it, right? I'm going to trash that and now reconnect it. There we go. Background black. So what we're going to do is we're going to come here and we're going to set the blend mode to nothing. 1. Set it to full. And then to here, we're going to send it to nothing. It should, just like the other one, fade between. And now it's got a kind of greenish color. How would we deal with that? Well, I could technically make another one like this. Rename it. Background green. Slap that in there. And we're going to go and grab a green background and just make it a bit darker because of the white overlay. I need it to be a bit darker. That'll do for now. What I could do is I could come here and add a curves to it. No, that's not going to work. I need to make it a bit darker. Okay, well, we'll leave it like that for now, I guess. Because if I get it too close to... That's a bit better. Okay, we'll leave it like that. Okay, so we've got that in. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back one, set its alpha to, it's not what I meant to do, over over here. Come over here, green. I'm going to set its alpha to its blend to nothing. 1. Nothing. Going to go back to black. And we're just going to bring the alpha up a little bit, like that. And then bring it back down. And then we're going to go back to our green. Go back 1, set it to 0, like that. Bring it back down. Going to go back to black and set it to 0. Oh no, that's burn-in. And bring in the blend again so it's close, not full, because full would be like this. And then set another keyframe, bring this all the way down, go back to our green, go back 1, set a keyframe so it stays at 0 until it comes here, then it jumps to green. Bring that back down and go back to black. Bring this up. Whoops, no, let's go back 1, set a keyframe. Bring this up. And then it starts to fade out. It faded out completely. Well, not completely. You can still see it a bit. So we're going to grab this entire merge. We're going to come over here. We're going to reduce this to nothing. We're going to come this merge, and we're going to set a keyframe. Sorry. We're going to set it there. Perfect. Going to come over here. We're going to set a keyframe. Then we're going to come over here and reduce this entirely. And this one, we're going to reduce until it's mostly gone. Or no. Do it like that. And this one we're going to keep just a little bit. Just like that. Then we come back. We're going to blend this back in. We're going to blend this back in. We're going to go to our multi-merge. We're going to go to green. We're going to go 1 step back. We're going to set that to 0. And bring it back up. Now that I think about it, though, I should just remove the white outline. I'll do that a bit further back. Yeah. And I think we're at the end. It stays that color. So now let's deal with this white outline. The white outline sort of disappears. So the white outline becomes yellow here. This is where it actually completely vanishes. This is the last frame we see it on. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to set a keyframe, and then from here I'm just going to remove it because we never see it again, right? Now it came back, and that's because I've got another keyframe further up. So this is the keyframe where I moved it. And then I've got a keyframe way over here that brings it back for some odd reason. Actually, I can just remove that. And yeah, actually I can just remove it like that. And now I don't need my color corrector. If I disable that. That could work. If I change my green. Yeah, there you go. We've got pretty much the same effect. Oh, wait a minute. What's happened here? Okay, there. Perfect. Okay, so we've got a very similar effect. Oh, no, I do need to keep my color corrector. There you go. Let's see what that looks like as we go forward. It's good. That's good. Yeah, so that's looking pretty good. All right, so we've got our text animated. And technically we could stop there. But we've got things in front. So I've got over here in my media pool, I've got this, which was the original photo that I generated. We're just using this as a placeholder to replace like these guys in the front. Now, the thing is, you'll notice that we've got a bit of, if we take a look at the top one, we've got a bit of movement, right? And these things are coming closer to us, and the backgrounds, you know, we've got some parallaxing happening. So we can't just do this in 2D. We're going to need to explore the 3D node. So let's do that. We're going to come in here, and we're going to start by adding a 3D merge. And we're going to add a 3D camera. I don't need this for now. We'll deal with it again later. So this gives us a 3D space. Cool. I'm going to merge just a character from this. Well, for that, I need to cut her out. Now, it's a still image. I could go in and just manually cut this individual out with a mask. And I guess that's what I'll do. Yeah, so I'll do that right now. And you know what? I'm going to be lazy about it. I am going to do this in another program. I'm going to go load up Affinity Photo. I'm using the beta of Affinity Photo because it's got an object selection tool now. Yeah. Don't worry about it. So we're going to come back over here. Just going to go and grab that image. Here's the image. So now I should be able to do the object selection. Going to just give it a couple of seconds to load up the model. Model should be loaded. And look at that. This is a new feature in Affinity Photo Beta. It now has object selection. I'm not even clicking. I'm just highlighting. Not highlighting. Just moving my mouse over. Look at that. It even captured that it's the same thing, even though it's going behind her. Very cool. So I'm going to select her. That looks like a really good mask. We're missing a bit of the hair here. And I believe I can just select this. There you go. I'm going to refine my mask. And we're going to go to matte and just make sure we catch some of these. There we go. Everything else looks really solid. Like, it's very, very good. More than adequate for what I'm doing. So we're going to apply this. And I'm just going to go to my regular tool. And we are going to apply a mask. Look at that. Cut out. Perfect. We're now going to export that out. File, export. I'm going to go and get that. Now I'm going to close this. I'm not going to save it. I'm going to go back to Davinci Resolve. And I'm going to import that in. And get rid of that one. And there we go. Now, normally you'd cut it out. If there's motion, you'd use like something like, what's it called? Magic Mask. But that's system intensive, and I don't need it because it's a still image. So we're going to grab this, and we're going to bring this into a image plane. Because this is 3D, it needs to be slapped onto some 3D geometry. So you grab your thing, put it in, and look at that. It's a 2D cutout. And then we bring that into the merge. Now if we take a look at the merge, I said if we take a look at the merge, thank you. The problem is, I'm just going to bring this back. Viewer. We're going to do a 3D render, which is going to take all of this and render it out into a 2D image. You don't see anything. Oh, that's because the camera is literally inside the character. So if I back that up, look at that. Let's back it up until we've got a decent image. There we go. Next, we're going to grab the background that's over here. I'm going to grab that. I'm not going to transform it anymore. This is just the cityscape. So I'm going to grab that cityscape, slap it into a image plane, bring that into the merge. Now it's inside the girl, and it's going to cause all sorts of weird flickering issues. So I'm going to grab that image plane, and I'm just going to back it up far into the distance. And then I'm going to go into the transform and just scale it up. I do want it to be a little bit higher, so we're going to grab this. And just like that. Just like that, we've got our backdrop. We've got our lady. Now we want to put the text in between the the lady and the backdrop. So what we're going to do is we're going to need to feed all of this into a image plane. So grab that, feed it into an image plane. I said feed it into an image plane. There you go. And that gives us our text. We feed that image plane into the merge. We move it back. Resize it a bit. Let's go to the start of the thing so it's the right size. So we want it to be about like this. And maybe a bit higher up. Yeah, like that. Perfect. Okay, so now we've got it in position. Maybe a bit further back. And then scale it up a bit. Yeah. So now that we've got that, we need to then take that 3D render and pipe it to the output. This is messy, so let's clean it up a bit. So it makes a bit more sense. There you go. A little bit better. We don't really need this in the flow. We can get rid of it after. I'm just, as I said, using it for timing. Right. That looks good. All right, so the next step is going to be to animate the camera. So for this, I'm going to need that. We're at the beginning. And at the beginning, we can see the full text. And then as it moves forward, you can see the text is getting a little bit bigger. So there's a little bit of a push forward here that stops right about there. So I'm going to go to my camera, 3D, and I'm going to set its transform and just its translation. Translation is forward, backwards, up, down, left, right. Rotation is pivoting the camera around. So we are going to set some keyframes to our position, and then we're going to go frame by frame, and it kind of stops moving here. So we are going to move it in a little bit closer, and I believe it's the Z-axis. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It's still moving a little bit, but very slowly. So we're going to go here, and we're just going to move it in just a tiny little bit more. We're going to start skipping frames. The camera's not really moving. Oh, it's moving a tiny little bit still. So we're going to go back to the camera. We're just going to move it in just a little bit more. Still moving in a little bit. Oh, and that's where it starts moving a lot. So right till about here, we're just going to move it in a tiny little bit more. And then starting here, it zooms all the way in. Like that. And if we get rid of this now, I'll maybe not get rid of it. Let's go back to the beginning and let's play it. Now it's being very slow because 3D is a bit intense and I'm recording at the same time, so it's a bit of a problem. Actually, let's go back to the Edit tab. Now, there's a red line here because I've got, under Playback, I've got Fusion Memory Cache on, and I've got also... No, that's it. I've got Fusion Memory Cache on, so it's pre-rendering that Fusion clip, so it'll run a bit better. So you can give it a couple of seconds. Staying hydrated. I really need to upgrade the CPU on this machine. For those who are interested, I'm running this on a Ryzen 7 3700X with 32 gigs of RAM and a RTX 3070. I am thinking of upgrading that CPU. It's a bit old. Okay, so now if we play this, like that, and if we compare it to the original clip, I'm going to grab this, Alt and move it, which makes a copy. And on this copy, I'm going to reset the Fusion composition. Yes. And then I'm going to zoom out, and I'm just going to stuff this in the corner so we can compare. Let it chew through all that. Good. And then play back, and then we'll have the comparison. And there we go. That's a pretty good copy. Now, there's a bit of a glow on that one, and like I said, there's a bit of like a burnt overlay type of thing. I could add those in, but we're not going to bother, but we're going to add a bit of glow. Yeah, let's go to... Nah, not going to even bother. This should get most people close enough to be able to replicate this setup. Is this the only way to do this? God, no. There's tons of different ways to do these effects. It's just a question of understanding your tools and finding something that, you know, you feel comfortable with. Fusion can be very daunting, but it is ridiculously powerful. And once you understand some of the basic nodes, like I'm talking about, let me open the Fusion. By the way, if you just click on Fusion, it's going to go to Fusion on the top upper layer, which would be nothing. So, like if I click Fusion now, there's nothing. But there's still Fusion within this clip. So if I click on it and then right click and open in Fusion, here's all my stuff, just in case you guys were panicking. So this looks like a nightmare, but it's not that complicated. A lot of the time, most of the nodes you'll use are these over here. There's a reason they're up there. They're the most used ones. Multi-merge is brand new. I haven't actually even used the multi-poly. I can't wait to try that out. That's brand new with 19, I think. I dabble quite a bit with the 3D, and I've played around with the particle emitter, which is kind of fun. I had one where basically we were talking about smartphones, and I had social media apps, and I had social media icons flying out of the 2D smartphone, just to show that there's so many and we are reliant on them and blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of fun. But honestly, and then you've got all, this madness, hundreds and hundreds of nodes. I'll be honest, I know maybe 20% of these. That's it. Most of what I do is this stuff. I'll use Magic Mask. I'll use the depth map a bit, quite a bit actually. But for motion graphics and stuff, a lot of what you'll do is literally just these things right up here. You don't need to freak out and think that you need to learn all of these. ACES is like something about color science, embellic meshes. Like you can load 3D in this. Obviously, since we're in a 3D scene here, but there's just so much to it. But you shouldn't be discouraged. Baby steps. Start with something simple. And most of what you'll do is this stuff right up here. Blurs, color correction. You'll add some masks. Fast noise is kind of cool. Like I could use that to do this like weird burning effect on, like not burning, but darkening effect on the text. Using that. But don't be overwhelmed. You take a look at this, something like this, and you get like, oh my god, like I have to know how to figure out this. Well, most of it comes down to media going into effects, and that's basically it. There's a very good video about this, called "Nodes Are Scary." Well, where he goes and explains it. He's got a tree that's even more complicated than this, and it's basically that's just it. It's some media that you have, be it video or an image or something that's going through some effects, that's been combined to other media that's gone through some effects, and mostly being masked out. So I've got some media. Oops, I don't need this merge anymore. Media going into a merge. What's merging into that media? Well, a bunch of colors going into a multi-merge, being color corrected, and they're also being cut out by some text. That's the beauty of nodes. You can just look at this, and once you understand the basics, you look at this and you're like, okay, that makes sense. I can follow this. I've got a background. What's going on with this background? Oh, okay, it's being merged. Something's being merged on top of it. What's being merged? You can just follow it. Oh, there's a green line here. That means these are linked. That's cool. And then I'm slapping some text on top of it, and then I'm putting this into a 3D plane that's being merged into a 3D scene. What else is in this 3D scene? Another plane, and it's media 1. What the heck is that? Oh, it's a background. Why didn't the person rename this as background plate? Let's go background plate. And then this would be, oh, it's the character. Okay, well, that's easy. Okay, so foreground character, let's say. They're going into some image planes, going into a 3D scene. I've got a camera. It's being rendered out, and it's being rendered out into a 2D scene. Excellent. Perfect. It's that simple. You just have to kind of at least know a little bit what the nodes do. But you can look at this and it makes sense. It's not like you've got like pre-comps within pre-comps within pre-comps like you do in HitFilm Pro or Premiere and After Effects. Hopefully this was useful, even though I sort of ranted at the end. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.